Hey guys, Toni Garcia-Jackson here. I am a Cadis design team artist. I'm super excited about being here today to share some balayage techniques specifically for curly and textured hair. And I'm going to be using Cadis Professional. So you may be wondering, who is Cadis for? So Cadis is a hair color line designed for the independent stylist as well as the small salon owner. Cadis is affordable, it's convenient, it gives high quality results, and it's very easy to use. So, you guys ready? Let's get started. So, I want to discuss, actually, before we start the technique, some of the challenges that occur with curly or textured hair. One of the challenges that we often see is that curly hair is more prone to breakage and well, basically because of the curl pattern. So the hair is very delicate. The other challenge that we find a lot with curly and textured hair is that the hair tends to be drier overall. No worries though, Cadis Professional has got you covered. So let's get started. So I'm going to be using Lightplex, and this is a lightener that has a bond builder already in the lightener. So this is designed to reconstruct bonds during the lightening process. And so this is very good for curly and textured hair because there's like an added benefit of insurance, so to speak, inside the container. So I'm going to talk more about that a little bit later. So I want to get started with the technique. So as you can see, I have sectioned the mannequin in 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. Okay, so that's how you want to do it. So it's parted down the middle and then across the crown area, and then a horizontal section just separating the top of the crown from the bottom part of the nape. Okay, so to get started, we're going to just section this section in half, and my section is about maybe an inch wide or so. So you kind of want to do the same. The only time that it would maybe be a little bit different is if you have a client that has fine hair, you may want to make your section a little bit larger. So I'm just going to clip this top section up and out of the way because we're going to be working right here in this section first. Okay, so as I stated, I'm going to be using the Cadis Lightplex, and this is a 3-step process. This being number 1, this is the Lightplex Bond Lightening Powder. Okay, so I already have it mixed in my bowl, or I have it, the lightener and the powder. And so I'm just going to mix that up a little bit, and I want my consistency to be creamy, but a little bit thicker than you would probably use your traditional lightener. And what's really nice is that it mixes up to a nice creamy consistency. This is mixed at a ratio of 1 to 1.5. So that would be 1 part powder to 1.5 parts developer. And I did use for this one, 13 volume developer. I'm starting off a little bit lower. Can you see that? See how nice and creamy it is? So I'm starting off with a lower volume developer because I'm working in the back. Okay, so this would be part 1 of the 3-step process. So now, to start my technique, I wanted to create something that would be quick and simple. So we're going to work in triangles. So I'm going to do so actually for this classic balayage technique, generally when you're talking about balayage and you're talking about a classic simple balayage, you generally work in triangles. And I have an example here. I cut one out so you could just kind of see. So when we're working with our triangles, what we want is the wider part of the triangle to be at the top and the more narrow part of the triangle at the bottom. But be mindful, when we move to the next section, we are going to switch it up. Okay, so this is what your section should look like. So you'll have a diagonal line there, another diagonal line there, and the widest part of your section towards the top of your subsection. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to do my first diagonal back or diagonal down. And then once I have that first one, do you kind of see that? And then I'm just going to start from the bottom of my triangle and go diagonally up to create my triangle. So can you see that? That's what we want. Oops, there we go. Okay, so now to begin, we're going to hold the triangle and we're going to hold the hair kind of taut. You don't want it to be too flimsy. Okay, and then I'm also going to be using a hair color paintbrush, and I'm using this for control to really get the lightener where I want it to be and just kind of help me execute my technique. Okay, so I'm also going to be using a paddle. So I'm going to put a little bit of product onto my paddle just so that I can work quicker and more efficiently. Okay, so I'm also going to start with a V pattern. Okay, and so V would be higher points of contact towards the top of my section, and the application will look just like a V. Okay, so that's what we're going for. And then, of course, with balayage, the ends tend to be a little bit lighter, so I'm going to go heavier on the ends. And I'm going to work right from my paddle onto my section. So here we go. One of the important things about balayaging, whether you're doing curly or textured hair, is a proper application with good saturation. And part of that is having a lightener that's really going to work for you. One of the things that I love about using Lightflex is that because the bond builder is already mixed in to my lightener, I'm not worried about the integrity of the hair, because the bond builder is already mixed in. And because curly and textured hair has a tendency to be weaker, you have an added measure of protection while you're working. Okay, so I'm going to go heavy on the sides here. And I like to start mid-shaft because, again, I have more control of my application, because what I want this to do is I want to really create gradient lightening, meaning that it would be lighter towards the top of my section, heavier towards the middle, and then I'm going to go the heaviest on the ends. Okay, so I like to work on the sides first, and then I'm just going to take the brush and go in the opposite direction towards the top, just to really make sure that my application is a little bit softer and a little bit lighter. Okay, once I have the top part of my section the way that I like it, then I'm going to work right here in the middle part of my section. Again, I want this application here to be heavy. And as I move down to the bottom of my section, then it will be the heaviest. Now, one of the important things about balayage is to make this look like the hair was naturally lightened by the sun. So it does have to have a nice smooth movement of color. So it can't go dark and then light. You want it to really melt into the lightness. So I'm going to go right into my center and go the opposite direction to kind of soften it up so that I have a nice soft movement from dark to light. As I move down here to the bottom part of my section, I'm going to go heavy again. And let me turn this a little bit so that you can see. I want you to be able to see, there we go, my movement of color from light or lightener from light to dark. Okay, now as I come here down to the ends, I'm going to place the hair right onto my section and really push the light flex all the way through to the ends. Okay, I really want to saturate the hair ends so that we have the maximum lightness. Now, with this balayage technique, most of this is surface application, except for when you get down to the bottom. And by that, I mean the product is not coming through to the other side until you get down to the ends. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're just going to take a balayage sheet and place it right underneath of the section and just lay my first one right on the sheet. Okay, and that's how we do that first application. Okay, so now we're going to do another triangle. Turn it slightly so that you can see there. And we're going to be working on this other side. Now here's a little tip. The larger you make your triangle, right, the more depth that you're going to create in your overall design, right? So the larger it is, the more darkness you will see in your overall design. If you choose to do a smaller triangle like this, it's going to be more lightness, especially if you do more small triangles over the entire head of the hair. So smaller triangles give you more lightness and larger triangles give you more depth. Okay, so just think about that when you're doing your application. Okay, so now I'm going to do another triangle. And throughout this design, there are pockets of depth here where there's not going to be anything, you know, and that's okay. Okay, so now we're going to start the same process all over again. I'll show it to you again. So we're going to do another V application. Again, doing gradient lightness where it's lighter at the top and heavier through the mid shaft and ends. Okay, so we talked about how to do this technique. I want to talk a little bit about the lightener. So the Glaze lightener is good for all applications. So you could use it for balayage, you can use it for color correction. It can also be used for your traditional highlights, you know, anything that you would use your a lightening service for. This is an excellent product for all types of lightening in the salon. You can also use it with 6-volume developer, 13-volume developer, 20, 30, or 40. So it's very versatile in terms of the types of developer that you can, or the levels of developer that you can use. The other great thing about it is that typically when you add a bond builder into a lightener, one of the things that we kind of were taught early on is that you have to sometimes go higher on your developer. However, with Glaze, you don't need to do that. So if you were going to use, let's say, a 20-volume developer, you're still going to use a 20-volume developer. There's no need to go up higher with your developer because of the addition of the bond builder. The whole thought was when you're adding the bond builder into your product, then you needed to go up on the developer so that you can get the same degree of lightness that you did before adding the bond builder in there. But with Glaze, you don't have to do that. Again, we try to make everything very easy and simple for you. It's already in the lightener, so there's no need to, you know, do anything but mix and get started with your application. Okay, so right now I have my 2 beams on either side to create my V. And then I'm gonna go in the opposite direction so that I can really apply the lightener in a softer, lighter manner. Remember, this should be gradient, meaning that it goes light, dark, darker. And then I'm going to come in through the center and apply my Lightplex to the center. You want to hold on to the ends until you are satisfied with how you applied the product on the rest of the section. Okay, then I'm going to go up through my center and go in the opposite direction to really soften that movement. Okay, then I'm going to come through the ends and I'm just going to place the hair right onto my paddle. And here, I'm going to saturate the ends. So we talked a little bit about saturation, right? So we want to make sure that we saturate those ends really good so that we get maximum lightness and brightness. And you also want to make sure that you smooth it out. And I want you to really take note of how nice and thick I have made this lightener, right? Because if the lightener is mixed too loosely, then it could create, you know, a mess when you're trying to balayage. And the one great thing about Lightplex is that it's versatile. You can mix it to the consistency that works best for you. Again, I mix this at a ratio of 1 to 1.5, so that would be 1 part 1 part powder to 1.5 parts developer. And again, I'm using 13 volume developer. Okay, so here we go. So we have our first 2 triangles ready to go. And now we're about to move to the next section. So what you could do, you have a choice. So you could just bring down the next section and start. But if you're concerned about the rest of the hair touching this hair here, then you can use a piece of film. And so I have a piece here that I'm just gonna apply over top of my section. But this is more like a personal choice. You don't have to do this. That just protects the other hair from what we're about to do next. Okay, so now I'm gonna bring down my next section. So now this, the Cadis Lightener, I told you, is a 3-step. The Lightplex is a 3-step process. So we started with the Lightplex Bond Lightening Powder. This would be step 1. And again, for those of you who are just joining, the Lightplex has a bond builder already built into the lightener that works to reconstruct bonds during the lightening process. And for me, that's fantastic. I work a lot on curly and textured hair, and I love the idea that while I'm lightening my client's hair, that less bonds are being broken, right? And that's good because curly and textured hair tends to be a lot weaker. Okay, so now this time we're going to change the triangle. Remember when we did the last section, we started with the widest section up top. Now what we're going to do on this section is we're going to turn it upside down, where we're going to have the more narrow section towards the top of the section. So all you're going to do with this technique is just alternate the way you have the triangle. So remember, for the bottom one, we did wide side at the top. And then this section, we're going to do narrow point at the top. Okay, so let's see how this works. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do diagonal down here on one side. And then we're also going to do another diagonal. And I'm just going to part this hair so that you can clearly see my triangle. How I have it, whoops, that fell down, how I have it the opposite direction. And I love this technique because you're gonna see how this adds another dimension of lightness to this technique, just by turning the triangle the other way. Okay, so there we go. Can you see that? So we have the pointy part of the triangle towards the top, and then the widest part of the triangle towards the bottom. So now we will balayage this one a little bit different, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold the hair out, straight out from the head. And actually what I've created here is almost like a corner of the triangle here at the top. So now I'm gonna continue with my paddle, and I'm gonna continue with my paintbrush. Okay, I'm gonna put product onto my brush. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint on the side of my triangle. So if I had the triangle, this is, here's an example of what that looks like this way. And I'm gonna paint on this side of my triangle. And I'm gonna paint on this side of the triangle, okay? Because we don't have the flat surface like it was when we had it this way. All right, so let me show you. So now I'm going to apply my product, take my product off of my paddle. And let me just secure her head. Okay. And now I'm gonna paint on the sides. I'm also going to start in the middle of my section. Okay. Can you see that? Let me move this. So this is what it looks like so far. Okay, but we're pulling it straight out of the head. Just want to make sure that you can see it. And then I'm going to go back up towards the top and work in the opposite direction so that the application is a little bit lighter. Now, how far you go up on this section is totally up to you, right? So you know that if you bring your application lower on the hair strand, it just means that it's going to be darker towards the scalp area, which is totally okay if you want to have more of like a root shadow. You can totally do that. Okay, then I'm just going to go in the opposite direction. And if you happen to get it on the scalp, which I did, just wipe it away. Okay, and then when I'm satisfied with the way that that looks. Now, the great thing about this is what this does is this creates internal lightness within the section, right? Because what's happening is my application is now on the inner part of my section as opposed to laying on the top. So now what I'm doing is creating more internal lightness within my section. And it makes it more visually interesting, I think. And it's just another technique or tool that you can add to your toolbox as an artist when you're trying to think of ways that you can switch up an application or refresh a look. Just gives you more options. Okay, now, and because I laid the plastic right underneath, I'm just gonna lay this right down onto my section. Okay, and then I'm gonna repeat the same thing. Taking down my section, and I'm gonna do another upside down triangle. Now, the other thing that you wanna think about is your placement, right? Because you don't wanna place them right on top of the triangle below. You kind of wanna brick layer it or scatter it a little bit so that the color is not laying on top of it, and it's more evenly dispersed throughout your section, okay? So now I'm gonna do another triangle. Pointy part of my triangle is at the top, and the wider part of my triangle is at the bottom. Okay, and I'm just gonna lay that down. Okay, and then we're gonna repeat the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to apply product to my paddle. I'm going to use this brush. And one of the things, you know, with doing balayage is you want to keep your sections neat. You want to work nice and neatly. Right? You want to make sure that the lightener goes where you put it, and part of that is mixing it to the proper consistency so that it stays exactly where you put it. And so again, with the Lightplex, you can mix it at a ratio of 1 to 2. You can mix it at 1.5 to 2, 1 3/4 to 2. You have lots of options in terms of how you want to customize your lightener mixture. Okay, and again, this is going to create internal lightness in my section. I'm going to go the opposite direction to kind of soften that out. And then I'm just going to place the tail end, the part that I want to be the lightest and the brightest, and really saturate that lightener all the way through. And you can see how quick and easy this is to really create multi-dimensional lightness within your section. And I'm just going to let that fall right over my right over the film. Okay, so that's how you would do that. And then you would continue with each section, alternating your triangles from right side up to upside down. Okay, that's how you would do that. Next, what we're going to do is once you have let the lightener processed, and this can go, you can leave this on up to 50 minutes or until you get to the desired lightness. Then the next thing you will do is you're going to rinse that out and you're going to use number 2. So number 2 is the bond completion in salon treatment. So now with this particular system, number 2, you will not shampoo first. You're going to rinse and go right in with your conditioner. And this is designed to really hold the bonds in place, reduce breakage, and keep the hair looking and feeling beautiful. This makes the hair feel amazing. And there's no better time to condition the hair than when the cuticle is wide open. Remember, we talked about curly and textured hair being dry. So, you know, if with some other lightening systems, what you would traditionally do is rinse out the lightener and then shampoo. But when you do that, you actually close the cuticle down, and then therefore less conditioner actually will get inside the hair shaft. When working with curly and textured hair, remember when we talked about the challenges, textured hair and curly hair requires a lot more moisture. So there's no better time to condition the hair than right after rinsing out your lightener. Okay, so the bond completion in salon treatment is just that, in salon. Right after rinsing out your lightener, you will leave this on for approximately 10 minutes, and then you are going to rinse it. Then we're going to shampoo. I'll talk about step number 3 in a little bit. This is for home maintenance, for the client to kind of maintain the lightening process and to maintain the integrity and the health of the hair. So we'll talk about how to use that in a second. So, excuse me, after you've done 1 and 2, you are then going to shampoo with the Glaze Visible Repair shampoo. And that's right here. And this is designed really to support the lightener. This is a shampoo that is a strengthener. So, you know, whenever you use any kind of chemicals and you're rearranging bonds, the hair can have a tendency to be a little bit weaker if you don't use the right products following the service. So if you use number 2 and then you shampoo with the Visible Repair, the hair is going to be in optimal condition. Okay, so after we do that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to finish this off with a Glaze treatment. And this is a great in-salon treatment that it's almost like an express service. And it's a great way to quickly, so Glaze treatments are great for either minimizing unwanted tones. It will also shift the color a little bit. Let's say you get the lightening process pretty darn close to where you want to, and you just want to make it look finished. The Glaze service is a great service to kind of shift the color slightly, just make it all even and looking beautiful. It's also a great product to give incredible shine to the hair. And that's really important in this time of the year. It's holiday time, everybody wants shiny hair. And so let's talk about the Glaze service. So in this bowl, what I have in here is the Cadis 6-volume developer. And you'll notice that that's here, this in purple. I'm sorry, orange. So I'm using 6-volume developer. And this is all equal parts. So you'll do 6-volume developer. And I'm also using the Cadis color vibrancy post treatment. So equal parts of that. So let's say, for instance, we're using an ounce. So you would use an ounce of the post color treatment, the color vibrancy. You're going to use 1 ounce of your 6-volume developer. I also am using 1 ounce of the Demi Clear. So our Demi shades, we have approximately 40 or so Demi shades that are non-ammoniated color. And I'm also going to use 1 ounce of 10 PA, which is another Demi shade. Can you see that there? It's 10 PA, so level 10 Pearl Ash. And I chose this color because whenever you're working on dark hair tends to pull a lot of red. So what we need to do to neutralize that is make sure that we use a color that has some ash tones or something to get rid of the warmth, okay? So you would mix this all into your bowl. Now remember, the mannequin has been, or your client's hair would have been rinsed, shampooed, and conditioned, and then you're ready to apply your glaze, okay? So this is her shampooed, shampooed and conditioned. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna section the hair for control, and I'm just gonna work here in this front part, and we would apply the glaze. And again, this is a great add-on treatment to add to your ticket, again, to give more shine to the hair, to shift your color slightly. You know, because we're using clear conditioner, a low volume developer, it's not really designed to neutralize a whole lot. In that case, if you needed to do that, you would just use one of our Demi shades straight on with a 6 or 13 volume developer. But in this case, the assumption here is that we like it. And this is just gonna make it look finished, give it incredible shine, shift the color slightly, and make the hair look fantastic. So what you would do is apply your glazed surface right onto the hair, making sure that you make it saturated really well over the part that we lightened. You don't have to worry about it altering the color of the darker hair because it just doesn't have enough power really to do that, okay? So what this is designed to do is kind of just slightly tone and shine up the part that we lightened, okay? And then you would just continue with this throughout the entire head. Applying, making sure that you have your glazed treatment completely saturated. And you would leave this on for up to about 35 minutes or until it's to the desired tone that you want. Okay, so now for the glazed treatment, what you would do, again, in case you're just joining, the glazed treatment is 1 part color vibrancy post treatment. It's also 1 part 6 volume developer, 1 part clear, and then the last one is your desired demi shade that you want to use on the hair. And that's all equal parts. Put on the hair from scalp to ends and leaving on for 35 minutes. Okay, so once that's all done, by magic, here we go. This is our finished mannequin. And here she goes. So this is what the technique that I showed you will give you. And it's toned with the Glaze treatment. And you can see how the ends are a little bit lighter. We have nice, beautiful lightening from the Cadis Lightplex. And the hair looks beautiful and it feels great. The other thing that I want to talk to you also about is we also have another lightener, and this one is called True Blondes. The True Blondes is another lightener. This is a traditional lightener. This one lifts 7 levels of lift, and by the way, I forgot to tell you that so does the Lightplex. It gives you 7 levels of lift, and both of these are good for on and off the scalp lightening. Now, the True Blondes is more for your traditional lightening applications, anywhere from color correction to highlights. You can balayage with it. You can do on the scalp lightening. This one does not have the bond builder, but it does have the Hydro Protect technology, so it deposits incredible moisture into the hair. So you kind of have to decide what it is that your client needs when you're choosing the proper lightener. And the great thing about Cadis is what we want to do is give you options, right? Because maybe everybody doesn't need the Lightplex with the bond builder, but if they do, you have it. That's it for me, and I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. And I hope that you learned some great things about Cadis today. You got some techniques to take back to the salon to make some more money. And I want to thank you all for joining me. And until next time, guys, take care.